In my opinion, Pierre Poilievre has peaked way too soon. I mean, listen, he has basically put nothing in front of Canadians other than 3 or 4 empty slogans. And those slogans have yet to be tested in the cold light of day. He has yet to tell us, where is he going to cut? What programs is he going to cut in order to pay for these axing the taxes? Canadians need to know before they can make a reasonable decision about whether or not they should support him. So you can be flying high in the polls right now, but I'm going to give you 3 examples that are going to show that being 6 points, 20 points, 10 points ahead of the polls, sometimes on the eve of an election, means absolutely nothing, let alone being 20 points ahead 12 to 15 months before an election. So let's go take a look at those examples and see where I believe Poilievre will never be the Prime Minister of this country. And before I forget, can you hit the like and subscribe button below this video to help grow the channel? Let me take you back to 1985. And at that time, the Conservatives had been ruling in Ontario, had formed majority governments for 42 straight years, if you can believe it. They were a dynasty. They were called a big blue machine. They were basically impossible to defeat. And Bill Davis, who was deemed to be a middle-of-the-road type of premier, that gave a little bit to both sides, allegedly. I spoke to some union leaders and they said that they got a little bit out of Davis when he was in there. But basically, Davis decided to retire about a year or so before the election, and a guy called Frank Miller gets elected. Frank Miller was more from the right wing of the party, but in any event, Miller gets elected, and he goes up against a guy called David Peterson. Peterson was a little bit reminiscent of Poilievre today. He used to wear big rimmed glasses and dull suits and wasn't very charismatic, and changed all his image. He got rid of the glasses, got rid of the dull suits. In any event, he goes into the election and comes away with winning 48 seats. The Conservatives won 52 seats, but the NDP won 19 seats. So the NDP got together with the Liberals, and for the first time in 42 years, they basically defeated the Conservatives.
Happened May 2nd, 1985. Roll tape.
This is truly a magic moment. And it just proves what we Liberals have been saying. Tonight there is a sunrise in Ontario.
But I guess the moral of the story is, don't count your chickens before they're hatched. The next election we should look at is the 2015 federal election. Here we had the Liberals were in 3rd place. NDP were in official opposition as a consequence of the great victory by Jack Layton, the Orange Wave, or the Orange Crush, that rolled over Quebec in the 2011 election. So Mulcair was sitting there with roughly 110 seats, and the Conservatives were in a majority government. So going into that election, the NDP, believe it or not, were actually ahead and had been ahead in the polls for at least the previous year. Every successive poll that came out, 7 all told, the NDP were leading. They had about a 6-point lead going into that election. Justin Trudeau leapfrogged over the NDP and the Conservatives to form a massive majority, the largest increase in seat gains since Confederation.
Canadians from all across this great country sent a clear message tonight. It's time for a change in this country, my friends, a real change.
He gained 148 seats. The NDP lost 59 seats. Conservative lost 51 seats. So again, here we are, another example, Canadian politics for you. Going into the election, just because you're 8 to 10, or in the case of the Conservatives back in 1985, were 20 points ahead, it means absolutely nothing. And the last example I will use is the British Columbia elections that took place in 2013. Again, here was an NDP leader, Adrian Dix, 20% ahead in the polls going into the election. Christy Clark was the premier of the Liberals. By the way, the Liberals in British Columbia are essentially Conservatives. Actually, they're right of the Conservatives. They're the successors of the Social Credit Party, which was an extreme right-wing party that has had great success in British Columbia in years gone by. But in any event, I digress. Going into the election, 20 points ahead, the NDP are. All the pundits, all the pollsters, all the media are all talking about majority NDP government. Get into the election, Adrian Dix, the leader of the NDP, performs really poorly in the debates, changes his mind about building the Kinder Morgan pipeline, and now you have an election on your hands. But still, on the night of the election, everybody was still saying there was going to be a majority NDP government. Well, when the polls rolled in, anything but.
So tonight, we have received a mandate from the people of British Columbia.
Christy Clark stormed into a majority government, completely shocking the nation. Nobody in Canada, nobody in the media, no pollsters, no pundits were calling for this victory by the Liberals in British Columbia. So in conclusion, and as we can see from the three examples, elections do matter. How party leaders perform in the debates, how they manage the media when they're out on the hustings, how they relate to the public, all has an impact and a bearing on the election. Now, if you noticed, the NDP has had a tremendous impact on all of the three examples that I've listed, but I didn't select those because of the NDP. I basically selected them because they were the first ones that came to mind in terms of where there was a massive overturn of public opinion going into an election. Jagmeet Singh has in fact negotiated two very impactful programs that is a continuation of the work that was set out by Tommy Douglas in the completion of Canada's healthcare system, and that is the dental care program and the pharmacare program. It remains to be seen, will Jagmeet Singh leapfrog over the Liberals and the Conservatives in the next election, just like Justin Trudeau did in 2015, just like the Peterson government did in 1985. Who knows? Let's talk about that in the next video. You've been watching Straight Talk with Sid Ryan.